And now that we're going, I guess I will.
Did you cue the video before you hit record?
I did cue the video beforehand.
Maybe he didn't push record.
You know, you two never cue the video. You don't know how much that video feels.
I've done it.
Welcome to Everyone Racers,
a show designed for the world of low-dollar racing.
An oddball car culture.
It doesn't matter what kind of Lemon Champ or Lucky Track Dog league you run.
SCCA or NASA.
We don't discriminate.
As long as you drive it hard and built it yourself.
Join us each week for tech discussions,
tips, tricks, as well as news and notes
from the world of amateur endurance racing.
And whether it's on the spot,
hella sweet or
we're lucky enough. Chrissy.
And I give you just the tip.
We're sure you'll giggle a little
and learn even less.
Everyone report to the paddock.
This is Chris.
This is Chrissy.
I'm Jeff.
And I'm mental and
And
down. Everyone watching YouTube knows that Jeff watches F1.
Yes.
Okay.
We're Everyone Racers. Welcome to another Porsche episode of our podcast. It's episode 261, recorded on September 14th, aka 914. As if you don't know, the Porsche
I was
914.
like going Porsche.
Yep. Somebody dug deep on this one.
Some weird code. I don't know.
Must have been a boring day. Porsche 914 was a mid-engine two-seat Targa designed, manufactured, and marketed collaboratively by Volkswagen and Porsche from 1969 to 1976. It was available at either a 6-cylinder or a 4-cylinder engine. Porsche discontinued the 914-6 after producing only 3,351 of them, but the 4-cylinder would be one of Porsche's best sellers with over 118,000 produced. It was the 1970 Porsche Trend Import Car of the Year if you're cruising in the fall in your German, Japanese, or even American car. Check out an E1R bingo card.
This is not that deep of a dive. My Facebook feed today was literally filled with Happy 914 Day.
You know what? The blip shift shirt today was not a 914, so that is a missed
I didn't see any 914.
They've probably done it every year for who knows how long, so they had to try something else.
Okay, thanks for digging deep on that one. I guess we could have had some kind of California penal code. I've done that. like you come up with whatever is interesting on this day. So thank you, Mental wrote that. Thanks very much. Let's move on. What you working on, Jeff? You have a whole lot of things going on here.
I do, but they're not really like car related. I don't know. We had house. Yeah, we had house guests. I think I mentioned last week we had a family funeral, so no time for garage stuff. I worked another day too. It was actually kind of really annoying, but I totally scuffed a wheel. Brian, I have a Veloster N and I bought gray sparkly wheels and I scuffed them and it's very annoying. Daily driving performance cars is really annoying. But anyway,
for you're the one who ditch hooks it and spills soup in it and all those things.
Races your students.
This is a you.
Thousands and thousands of miles in performance cars daily.
This is a you problem.
You do not do 20,000 miles a year like I do.
No, it doesn't matter.
180,000 miles, not a scuffed wheel. And that car belonged to 3 of the people on the screen.
And some other jerkhole too. So.
Yes, but he was a tech executive at Microsoft. He's not going to scratch a wheel.
He didn't. Nope.
Yeah.
All the scratches probably were for me. That's true.
So anyway, I did have a work experience, which was fun. I was walking into work and I saw a friend of mine who works for IT, who is also the esports coach. He's like, Jeff, come here. And he like calls me over to the campus center and I'm just trying to walk to work. And I say, yeah, man. He's, look what I got. He's got a sim. He's got a set of Corsa running. And he's like, I'm trying to set a driver program. I said, back off. I'll take it from here.
Oh, wow.
Sat down in the chair, did 5 laps on a set of Corsa. Never played a set of Corsa in my life. In a 911 Cup car on Silverstone. Never drove that in my life either. Set a moderate time, whatever. Didn't think I was great. Didn't think I was bad. For 3 full days, that has sat in the campus center, inviting everybody and their brother to to set a faster lap time than Jeff,
Yeah.
and only 2 students have come forward and set a faster lap time.
Well, considering your actual sim is under a pile of junk for the last 7 months.
It's true.
So good for you.
Here's the poster I put up. I'm going to share a quick screen here.
Well, and I will say also, while you're setting up that poster, it's not like you're not popular on that campus, and not like everyone did not want to take a swing at you on that one. So it's not like 4 people that, one of them can't drive a stick sat down.
Yeah.
I'm
So here's
sure-
the flyer. I put
Yeah,
it right on the TV.
They went after it. Yeah.
And one guy who's like a near professional gamer who has a set of Corsa beat me by a second and a half. And then some woman came up, claimed my people gave him a t-shirt, and they walked out. I didn't even get to say hi to him. I was like, well, who beat my times? Like, oh no, some girl.
Good for her.
The whole idea was I wanted to meet him. Anyway, that's what was happening to me.
Well, if she's looking for a seat, I think we all got an email today that they need somebody for Sorry for Party Racing at Button Willow in October. So hopefully she'll listen to this and look you up.
Totally. There's nothing like dedication to a new sport by flying across the country and racing with a bunch of people that you don't know that were speedos. So there's that.
A 20-year-old who beat some fat guy in a sim is definitely ready for an endurance race.
Yeah.
Yep.
With Sorry for Party.
I guarantee everyone on this screen can beat my time in that sim because I am a terrible sim driver. Chris, not a terrible sim driver. Tell me.
Good job anyway.
Yeah. I threw the gauntlet. What am I
It's my turn now.
I said,
Is
well,
that what you're saying?
Brian, what's your sim skill? I imagine you probably get a lot of sim time.
Not a lot, but I do have a reasonable like Oculus Fanatec setup. So it's in the corner over here. I'd say basically only when I know I'm about to go somewhere that I haven't been, do I force myself to stay up late and do it.
And that is
Agreed.
the best use of a sim.
really is.
Where
It
do the
is.
track go?
Yeah.
Like that's helps a lot.
It's been hugely helpful this year. I've gone to a bunch of new tracks this year. And so it has been like you show up and it actually looks like the thing you've been practicing on.
Mhm.
It's a massive help.
Totally. Did that with VIR last 2 years ago. It was great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Cool. Chris,
Chris, what
your
you
turn.
working on?
I've been actually fixing mechanical things, which is fun. The Mazda after the last race, we had the 2 problems, had the weird rotational speed noise in the right rear, fixed that with a brake caliper a while before vacation. Now after vacation, trying to figure out why it wasn't running exactly right. Nothing enough to throw a code, but it was intermittently and just not 100%. So I've started going through everything, cleaned all the oil and water out of the spark plug holes because this car has had so many oil leaks lately that have massive oil leaks that have covered everything in oil. So we, make sure let's clear all those out. And then I realized the ignition coils are original to the car with 250,000 miles on them. I said,
It's a Mazda
maybe
3.
we'll do
It's
those.
fine.
Maybe we'll do those.
Well,
So
we got a
I got
problem, so
I
it
got a
seems
set
like
of
a
new
good thing
Delphi
to do.
coils. Let's wipe that off the map as an option because that could be. And lastly, I went through every plug I could find on the engine, unplugged it, hosed it out with electrical contact cleaner, cleaned it off and put it back together. And almost all of them had a bunch of oil in them. So I'm hoping that could have given me a weird connection somewhere. And lastly, I took the evap purge solenoid, which on these, and again, this one has 1 billion miles on it. They're adjustable. For someone figured out there's a screw inside them. If you take it apart, there's a screw. You turn all the way to the left and then go back 1.5 turns. That actually makes it run better because it stops a small air leak. So I did that. I haven't driven the car yet, but I did all those things. So it's got to be better. And next, I've been working on the boat. We have a 17-foot Boston Whaler with a 90 horsepower Tohatsu TLDI direct injected 2-stroke. It was running poorly at the end of the season, like fluctuating RPMs, not idling particularly well, especially under load, leaking oil out of the
Just a little
down the leg of the
so
motor.
much. Like we
Yeah.
killed, there's
Like,
fishes that were
ooh,
just popping up
ooh.
behind us and we were just like,
That's-
we got to go
that's-
really fast because
It wasn't leaving a slick, but it was just mostly like when the motor was up, you'd see streaks coming down. I was like,
It's
it's
not
not supposed to
good.
do that. Especially I just
No.
painted that. It's white. Anyway, did a bunch of tests on that. I tested fuel pressure, which tested out perfectly to spec at 90 when I was running. Tested out air pressure through the air compressor. That was tested out perfectly to 80 when it was running. I did find a fuel leak though on one of the lines that goes to the rail that was just a little pinhole. I think that was enough that it was spraying down the inside of the engine cover, and that was gathering up all the lovely oil that was in the bottom of it from 50. It's a 2005. It's not perfect. So I think that fuel was cleaning out the engine tray and leaking it down, also not allowing to have quite as much fuel. Also, I found I was almost out of gas. That doesn't help. So fix that problem. And lastly, I read the codes for the first time ever. I figured out how to do it. And it was the codes have never been cleared. It's a 2005 motor. So it had a bunch of historical codes in there. Some of them are related to low voltage. And
Ballpark. I'm genuinely curious. Almost 15, was it damn near 20 years. How many codes?
7.
Mazda mother humper.
No, this
is the boat. You're not even listening.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. I say
Tell
that
me work.
sounds
Sorry.
that sounds like such a Chris engine. 20
Japanese.
years, 7 codes.
This thing ran fine until we painted it.
Pretty much.
I know, not connected, but still.
Right.
Could be upset.
Anyway,
Leave it
yeah,
right.
exactly.
It looks
A lot
brand
of
new
them-
though.
A lot of them were related to voltage. So I start looking because these motors are apparently quite sensitive to voltage. You have to have this big ass Group 27 battery. So I start looking around and I noticed that the battery cable where it connects to the motor, it's looking a little crusty. So cut that one off, put a new plug on it, put the battery in charge overnight. Tonight I ran all the tests and everything ran fine. So I'm thinking it was the combination of the fuel leak, the low fuel, and the voltage issue all wrapped into one to make it. It still ran. It still got me to the boat ramp. And it wasn't like bad. It just wasn't the way it should be. So we shall see. We're going to take it out in this weekend at the lake because it's going to be 78
problem
degrees
is
and beautiful.
It became questionable, and we didn't want to get stranded. We actually got sea tow in case we got stranded somewhere. So it became a concern that it was going to strand us somewhere.
All summer though, it always brought us home.
Yeah, but it just never ran. Good.
Yeah,
As I understand it, CETO is basically the floating equivalent to AAA.
it is.
It is. Yeah.
So,
but we never
anyway.
got it before. But this year we were questioned. It was
And my
questioned.
brother didn't have his boat in the water for a long time because he was having problems with his Yamaha. So
I think he's still having those problems.
He still is, yes. Anyway, that's enough. Enough about that.
Enough about that.
Actually fixing stuff.
I
Chrissy, what do you do?
I was not. So we went on vacation this weekend to another beach. That's pretty much our last weekend away. Just getting back to the swing of things. So while I did other things while Chris was working on all these projects. So mental, what the heck are you doing?
Well, so we are prepping for the Vegas Auto Fest this Saturday. In fact, I'm here recording this while everybody's up stuffing the swag bag. So drivers are coming. If you find yourself in the Las Vegas area, it's fantastic. We take over the 18th green of the Red Rocks Country Club, beautiful sunset views, and no real specific type of car, just cool cars. And it's laid out by our buddy, John Polnick. So it's all nice and artsy for photographs. I've got a NASA Enduro. They're doing the NASA Regional Championship at Laguna this weekend, and Monday doing a 6.5 Enduro. And I am just back from the High Plains Raceway 24 Hours of Lemons, which even though I didn't rent it, it was because we were all carpooling it being a 24-hour race. Judge Steve, aka the Dishwashing Fairy, is very excited to play this edition of Guess the Rental.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to go first. Broad question.
Love my game.
Did you like it?
No, but not because
Okay.
it was a bad car. It's just not my kind of car. Probably too much info.
So good car, not for you.
Should we explain this game to Brian so he knows what we're doing here?
Yes.
please.
It's
So
Every
they were
time
in a
we
rental,
travel,
and
yeah.
we get to do 20 questions and try and
No.
guess the rental.
not
You get to
20,
do
Not
like
20.
one.
Sorry.
4
We
questions.
You
each
get
guess a
one.
question.
We each get a question.
And
Question.
And then we guess.
Streetcar rental, like national
Yes.
Hertz and
Yes.
Hertz. Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Hertz. Yeah. Budget. They probably went budget.
My question is, how many people were expected
That was my
and
question.
did they all fit?
3 with a possibility for more. And yes.
How much
Excellent
luggage
question.
were you expecting to bring? No, nobody was actually racing, so there shouldn't be any race gear, right? So it's just clothes for 3 people was what you were expecting.
Yes, but for 3 people that were working a 24-hour race.
Okay.
No, nobody asked country of origin. I'm very upset because
Sorry.
Brian, you want to throw a question in there?
I mean, I would first like to hear your guesses based on those 3 questions.
oh boy,
Should
either I don't know this game or those were not helpful questions.
those were not helpful questions. We
Oh.
did terrible questions.
I'm gonna
Oh
say-
no.
I would like to get a second question.
Especially if Steve was excited about it
oh,
and this all happened, I'm going to say Kia Carnival.
No.
I don't even know what that is.
It's a
Kia's
minivan.
a minivan. Steve
Oh.
likes minivans and he likes.
I know. I
Kias,
was
so-
gonna go
right.
for some sort of Nissan or Toyota minivan because he said it was a good car. I didn't think a Kia Carnival would be a good.
I'll give you this. It's smaller.
Oh.
I'm going
Come on.
something like CRV.
Okay, so you're that's
Nobody
your guess is
rents
CRV.
Hondas.
Okay, I got mine.
Something like a CRV.
I'm ready.
Jack,
Go ahead.
Nissan Pathfinder.
No.
Because he would not say that's a good car because we
It's
all know
true.
it
Didn't
is
say it was
not
a
a
good
good
car.
car.
No,
Well,
but
he did. He
Steve
said it's
liked
a good
it.
car. He just didn't like it, and Steve didn't. Steve wouldn't also not.
Oh
like it.
yeah, no,
one
but
would.
I personally would have been like, no, it was a flaming pile of garbage in a
It's
dumpster
a-
that was
it's
also
a
on
Nissan,
fire
right?
because it's
yeah.
a Nissan.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's a
Yes.
Nissan, yeah.
That's why I was going just going Honda like something a nice-ish car.
Except
Okay.
It's Honda. Basically, here's a good rule for this: Honda basically doesn't sell cars to fleets.
Chrissy,
Well,
I will tell
everybody-
you, Chrissy, you're on the right path.
Everybody sells cars to fleets now
gotta be
because they
Toyota.
need them.
Well,
And
they don't sell it directly. You'll put it that way. If they buy it in the used market, it's a
didn't
different
one of
story.
you have a BMW one time? Like, yeah, that's what Mental said.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
All right,
right.
keep going. Keep going.
You're there. You're there, Chrissy. Give me a guess.
what Toyota? It's a Toyota.
Sienna.
No.
No, it's not a minivan.
All right, Brian, you get the last guess. You got a question still.
Question.
Brian.
How about a question? Okay.
You
So
get a question and then a guess.
body style. What is the body style?
It was an activity vehicle.
See, would have been helpful. We should have asked
See,
that.
I know.
That's why I went Pathfinder.
That's
I've had a lot of rentals this year, but they've all been kind of bad. So when you say that you liked it, or someone else might like it, that's hard to say.
Yeah.
I don't know. Kia, the Kia
Yeah. No, it was a Subaru Forester.
as a
Forester.
rental.
In a rental
As
fleet.
a rental, a new one too. Is right. And again, this was not a bad car. It's just not my car. You know, the CVT transmission sat up a
Terrible.
little high, drove very well, plenty of luggage space, had all the nannies on it. And yeah, you know, if someone said I'm considering buying this car, especially if they weren't a car person, I would say you are on the right path. But
Where
just
did you rent
saying.
this? What airport? or
Denver,
where'd you-
Denver International.
Okay, that makes sense.
That does make a little
Lucifer.
more
It
sense.
does make
Home of,
sense.
Yeah,
Yeah,
now
you
see.
know, home
it's
of
coming
the
into focus.
Illuminati's evacuation plan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Did you say which rental company?
did not.
I did not know. Avis feels right.
Okay. Was it bad?
Was the
No, but
experience
was the
bad? I think
experience
it's-
bad?
No,
Oh, okay,
Well,
good.
it's Steve. No one's ever going to be mean to Steve, and especially with
Oh
Jen's
no,
with
no.
him.
This
Yeah,
was just
so.
my last time to Chicago. I waited an hour and a half, and then when I came back, the line was easily 3 hours long. So
Yeah.
I was just trying to make sure see how.
And because of the Denver airport, you hop on a shuttle bus, so all their rental places are
Yeah.
off site. And Steve had he rents cars because he travels for work a lot as well. And it was literally he walked in, showed him his fast pass. They said, "Please, sir, go right this way, go right to the window." And the guy said, "Your car's right over here."
Good. I didn't know they did that there everywhere.
There you go.
All
Good.
right. And
Okay.
hopefully by now you have noticed there's a new voice, or you figure, Mental's doing his crazy multi-personality thing again. And that new voice is Brian Ghidinelli. And he is a first-generation race driver from San Rafael, California, entered motorsports in 2001 by finding a pamphlet for the BMW Car Club in the glove box of the BMW leased, volunteering at local autocrosses, local events, and they were still using the paper signups. And after deciding this could be a lot easier if people did it on computer, Brian developed a program that would eventually become known as MotorsportReg. You've used it. I've used it. We all live by it. It is fantastic. So right now, whatever you're drinking, tip a little bit in this direction, because he has made everyone's life so much simpler. After having pursued lots of track time, he is still behind the wheel of his BMW and owning and operating that. But in 2021, you joined Round 3 Racing, representing Hagerty, and that is all being documented during the Drive Within, streamed on Hagerty.com. We'll have a link to that in our show notes, and can be found behind the wheel of the 609 BMW M4 GT4 in the GTO class of WRL, powered by Hagerty. And you are also the managing director at Hagerty Motorsports.
That is all true. It's like someone told you these things.
Yeah. Well, when I threw the, hey, this guy wants to be on our show, and we, there are people that would refute this. We are kind of picky about guests. And when I said, he's the guy that built MotorsportReg, Chris is like, yes, this is someone we should certainly have on the show.
Well, I think it sounds like we have some nerds on the show in different ways, and I am definitely a nerd. So I feel like I'm in a good place with you all. Yeah, I mean, I'm just I didn't grow up with a motorsports background. I sort of fell into it accidentally by leasing a BMW and finding that pamphlet. And I don't know, there's certainly a lot more stories about people's lives being ruined by finding a pamphlet than being aided and improved and so forth. I mean, I just have to say the last 20 years or so of my life has been a ton of fun because of finding that thing in the glove box. And I don't know what I'd be doing if it was not for that glove box, but it has been awesome and a ton of fun. And it leads me to hang out with folks like you.
That's fantastic. So what are you working on, Brian?
So I was just a VIR with WRL, doing the race car thing with those folks and representing Hagerty, which is where I work today. So I'm doing just some cleanup from that. I do these track maps that take me way too many hours to like document all my thoughts. So the next time I go back, I know what I'm doing. So I'm working on that still, even though it's a few days ago. We had a good result. So I'm still telling stories over and over to my family about all the great things that happened, which they love, of course, right? They love hearing race stories. And just working on some
totally different family than my family, let me tell you.
Or is that sarcasm? One or the other.
A bit of sarcasm. My daughter, I have a 6-year-old daughter. She thinks it's pretty awesome so long as I'm at the front. I did the runoffs last year and in Indianapolis, and so I did T3 in a BMW. And she and my wife came out, and my daughter's a huge fan of her dad, like all kids are of their dads. And I had a bad start. I made a mistake, and ultimately I had some contact, and it just ruined my race. And so I think I finished 7th. And when I got out of the car, she came over. She's like, "Congratulations!" And I told her I got 7th, and she's like, "Oh!" And then she just walked off.
Wait till they're 14,
right? And they're gonna go meh.
But now you put a dollar amount next to your track map, but we are actually big fans of that Ross Bentley concept. Sometimes behind Chris will be a map of that Chrissy draws.
Yeah, there's one if you goes
there.
No, there's one behind you towards the printer. The printer, the other way. The printer.
One too.
Turn around.
But that we're
that
fans
one's
of
easier
that.
to see.
Oh, okay.
We're fans. Yeah. By drawing the map and then doing the elevation changes and learning this. And
mine is not as detailed. Mine is freehand.
And hold that up again, Ryan.
Yeah, right. What?
It might just be bad handwriting, but.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay. Good.
A lot of notes.
To go to a larger format paper.
Yeah. I'll give you some of mine. I use the whole page.
Yeah, this is not legal. It's not even legal. It's just whatever.
Letter size.
Normal size.
It travels well.
Oh, all right. But you've also got some other cool stuff that geeks who listen to the show would love.
Yeah, I mean, we I feel just super lucky to do what I've been doing. I think I'm like you guys, that I'm into endurance racing. I kind of did the first race ever was in Buttonwillow. You mentioned Buttonwillow a few minutes ago. I did a 3-hour there a long time ago with a friend in his car. And it was like, I'd never driven someone else's race car. I'd never driven that track at night. It was a night enduro. I'd never done a lot of things. And like after getting out of that car, I was just hooked. And so, that kind of sent me in many ways down the path that I wound up on. But if you don't know much about Hagerty, like we're a company that loves people like us here on this call. And if you just love cars or motorcycles or go-karts or pretty much anything with an engine, we've got something that's sort of in your wheelhouse. So that's what I do during the day is work on either technology or software or events and experiences that are for folks like us.
That's fantastic. We had Kyle Smith on the show some time back. What a great guy. I am fascinated that your first endurance race was at night at
Me
Buttonwillow,
too.
because there is
Wow.
there's no off-track visual references and there is no light
I have a hard time driving it during the day. You're just like, wait, which corner am I in? Because you're either going up
the paddock.
right up. You're not wrong. It's pretty dark there.
I get in second. So the teammate starts the car, the owner starts the car, gets us in the lead in the race. I get in, I've never done this before. And like the second lap, I don't really know his car setup. And as I shift to the third or fifth, my knuckles hit the lights on the car and all the lights turn off.
Oh no.
No.
So I'm driving around for a couple laps and apparently they're black flagging me, but I can't see this.
Can't
because
see it 'cause you don't have your lights on.
you're high enough, right? And then like a lap and a half later, some car drops wheels in front of me. It was a Honda. I actually remember that. And throws mud all up on the windshield. And so I turn the windshield wipers on. It goes once and gets stuck. And so now most of the windshield is obscured. There's no lights. I can't see anything. As I come around, I'm like, man, this is really hard to drive. So managed to get the lights back on. We go on and everything goes okay in the end. But
so basically you started at like 12. So
Yeah.
like turn it all the way up. And you're like, hey, what's the worst you could think that you could happen? You had that. Now you're like, daytime? What? This is easy.
I got to say, doing this WRL thing this year, all the races are during the day. The car, this particular car has some nannies on it. It's got air conditioning. Like it feels like you're living the life of luxury. It's nice.
That's fantastic. One of our listeners and a friend of ours, a guy named Cam Lopez, was in a rented race car this weekend. He's building his own, but it was a Fiat X190. He came in right after the sun went down for a black flag, and he had done the same thing. He had reached down to turn off the lights, hit the kill switch, locked up the rears and spun it, and then just sat there and went, oh God, I have to go to penalty or this one, and got it fired back up and came in. I'm like, well, that's self-correcting. See you later.
Shoot.
The good news is if it's a long race, you can recover from those kinds of things, which, you know, my Indy experience last year in the runoffs, one mistake at the start and that was the whole game. So that's one of the things I love about endurance racing.
It is definitely chess.
You can make one mistake, maybe.
You get one.
Yes, one.
Yeah.
As long as you can recover well. Because
One
some
goat.
people do not recover well.
One goat.
One goat. News and notes time.
All right, literally as we record this, the new Mustang is being revealed at the North American International Auto Show. Matt Fink at Hagerty tells us all about this year's iteration of the Drive Home, an annual pilgrimage of vintage cars to NAIAS in Detroit. This year was a little bit different as it is an all Mustang drive from Tacoma to the Motor City in cooperation with Ford called the Mustang Stampede. Victoria Scott at the drive has all the details you need to enjoy the reveal, which will be all over your favorite news outlets tomorrow, but still available for replay. Quick notes. The model is called the S650. It does have a manual option and will have a V8 available as well. Links to all of this, along with the great piece from Hagerty's Larry Webster about his personal 86 Fox Body GT and the experience of driving it in the Stampede with his son. Fun.
Larry is a real racer. If you all do you know who Larry is?
Oh, we know Larry.
I've shared a car with Larry, and
yeah.
Yes, he was typified as he looks like he would have been an astronaut in the 60s. You know, he just has that look and mannerism about him. But yeah, he can drive. Absolutely.
All right. Speaking of big V8s, while much ado has been made about Stellantis and the death of the Charger Challenger twins, they're letting its platform cousin, the 300, depart with a proper send-off, as well as a 485 horsepower V8 to the lineage that many consider the birth of the muscle car. It's the first time the 300 has been available with a 6.4 liter since the last SRT8 rolled off the line in 2014. As Brian Ghidinelli at Hagerty reports, the 300 was born in 1955 and has always traditionally been about the big V8 engines and big luxury. The send-off model has, for the first time, mated the ZF 8-speed with the biggest V8 available, making this the best of that breed. That actually goes way back to 90s Mercedes platform, really. Hey, act fast. There's only making 2,200 of these, and I'm sure several of them are going to be at buy here, pay here lots on 24s before long.
Really, Stellantis. That's what you do. It's like, what are we going to do?
V8.
V8.
I'm surprised I didn't put a Hellcat in it.
It's probably they're saving that for the last 100, I think. Hey, if you're like me, you've been annoyed by coverage on every single television, radio, and news outlet that the Queen passed away. We're Americans. We probably don't really care. But don't be so heartless, because Queen Elizabeth II had a little gearhead past. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. So maybe you can not throw up the next time you see them covering it. But anyway, yeah, she is one of us. In 1945, the 18-year-old Princess Elizabeth was in the Auxiliary Territorial Army, working as a truck driver and a mechanic. The longest ruling monarch in the United Kingdom history ever. Never held a license, but was known to enjoy driving. She's well known for holding on to any car in the royal household for as long as possible before trading it in on a newer model. A touching tribute from Hagerty that includes quotes from some of our favorite people in the motoring world, alongside some great photos of the Queen behind the wheel, are linked to our show notes. And they definitely are showing like her and her ambulance a lot on a lot of the TV coverage. So wanted to make sure that we didn't think it was all terrible.
She looks so happy in the picture, in this picture on when you open
Right?
the
Yes.
right. Oh, when you open these notes, she's just like that's such a this is the best thing ever. Oh, that's so cute. I love it. All right. So you've heard of doom scrolling, but have you what about glee freshing? Glee freshing? It's one word. That's the opposite. You've heard us talk about all of the doom scrolling you can have and offers on racingjunk.com, but it's also a great place for Glee Fresh. This is a thing.
Glee
Like
Fresh.
refresh.
Refreshing,
Like
but finding fun
refresh.
things.
I got it. Okay. I'm sorry about, I've never heard of that. Like this recent slideshow from the 2023 Adirondack Nationals. 2023 didn't happen yet, but that's fine. And just 25 great photos of cool cars. Hot rods might not be your cup of tea, but they have the Bonneville shots, the Mustang Mach-E at the drag strip, and whole series on project preparation. Check out their galleries. So super fun things on Racing Junk, because it's definitely a place where you could just completely get lost and spend a whole lot of extra time there.
Yep.
Cool. Upcoming races.
Champ car rolling into Palm Beach International for the South Florida GP. 47 cars, only 7 are BMWs.
That's a
not
pretty
bad.
good
That's
ratio
okay.
for
Not
that.
bad.
That's a
Exactly.
good ratio.
Brian, we're a little harsh on BMWs in case you're not a real listener. Usually call them quite
We've
boring.
all owned them, but we all think they're boring for race cars because,
Yeah.
like,
They're
come
too
on,
good.
you can do better.
They're reliable. They win. They look good.
All the above.
Yeah, all that crap.
All
Yeah.
of that.
That's lame. All right. There are, however, 16 Miatas, 4 Hondas, 2 Porsches, and a 1990 Corvette magazine.
Oh, wow.
That's
Nice.
All right. We'll see how that goes.
A 90 Corvette. What transmission would be in that?
That might be the ZF 6-speed, which is a
That would be
clearly
good.
superior choice to the Duck Nash 4+3 that we have.
Yeah.
I would
No doubt.
bet it just because it's Champ car and they do that point system. I'm betting they're probably running the auto.
Could be. Who knows?
I thought stock transmission.
It's
wouldn't
gonna
cost you
break.
anything either
Like,
way.
there's no doubt it's going to break.
But nice that they
Okay.
tried. So then
Yeah.
fine.
But if it's your
Plastic
Corvette,
fantastic.
get a hold of us. Let us know what kind of
They can have
transmission you're running.
they
in
can
that
play
one.
screaming eagle sounds as they drive around.
That's right.
And
5.7 liters of failure. Listener feedback time.
That's an in-person feedback at the 24 hours.
Oh,
Okay.
Yes. And I quote, the E1R podcast is the highlight of my week. I know you don't rehearse or edit, but I still appreciate the work that you put into the show, and that comes from someone who lectures for a living, end quote.
Wow.
Thank
Do we
you,
get to
Mike.
know who
So
that
nice.
is? Or
Absolutely. It's Mike. Yes. He has no social media. He actually has to go he doesn't own a phone. He has to go get all this stuff, a mobile phone, does this stuff old school. Had the tiny little Volvo that he used on the recent rally up in the Pacific Northwest.
Very
Wonderful human being.
Well,
Yes.
wonderful. Thank you.
great.
on the YouTube, Tyler Stank put in, he liked that I talked about Project Chicken, and he said, I know exactly what Project Chicken is. Quote, Project Chicken is exactly what I'm doing with the MX3. It's been backburnered so long, and getting it to a race is still so far off. Adding that he realized it was possible to get it ready for an autocross before he leaves for basic training. So I guess he has signed himself up for the old Project Chicken. Brian, you know what Project Chicken is?
No.
It's when you're working on a project and it's not done yet, but you register for the event to force yourself to finish the project.
Is there any other way?
That's what I said.
Yes,
I
work
said this
on
is
it
the
every
greatest way to
night.
get things done.
You have to at least have good intentions, right? I mean,
That's
if you don't have good intentions.
That's a software developer telling us that. So boom.
That's funny.
We have good approaches.
Fix it and prod.
And yeah. It's called testing day. Jim McGuire said on the C4 Corvette, highly recommend replacing the clutch master and slave cylinders plus the hydraulic line. All right, Jim, I've already replaced those two things. That was like the first thing I did when I got the car out of storage. I don't remember if I did the line though, but the car's over getting its air conditioning fixed.
I was actually just thinking we should probably call them to get it back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So whenever it comes back, I have to put up in the lift and see what's going on with the hydraulics.
Good call.
When do you
thank
leave for the race or for the rally?
The
2
29th.
weeks.
Yeah, soon, which means I got to start daily driving it to see what else I can break. Because last time I drove it, the seatbelt wouldn't retract, the rear defroster didn't work, and the clutch started getting wonky. Yeah, Brian, this is an 84 Corvette with 44,000 original miles that I got from a friend and just took out of 20 years of storage and had to do a tremendous amount of work to get it going again.
Why? But you're going on a rally.
Sentimental value for my friend, and we're going on a Lemons rally with it because what else are you going to do with an 84 Corvette?
It's the
Yes.
right car.
It's sure. I hate this car. Anyway, Al Jones sympathized with our sunk cost fallacy. I have had 2 Lemons bills that this has happened to. You feel obligated to continue the build because you're already done so much, but then a new problem shows up and it creates another mountain to climb. His solution was to find a completed race car and get it sorted. Not a bad way to go.
How'd that work out, Jeff?
Didn't
Yeah.
work out. Magic spinning triangles, not highly recommended.
We almost got a day out of it, and we all knew it was going to pop.
We thought we'd get more than half a day.
I didn't.
Oh,
As an
Oh,
RX-7 owner, I had faith in everyone on the screen. I just didn't have faith in the Wankel.
I just didn't think it would be pouring water out of the exhaust as so quickly as it did. Yeah. Anyway,
You know who never pours water out of her exhaust?
Oh, I hope so.
I was going
Not.
to say, you know who can always be counted on?
That's better. I like that. Hi, Mom.
yep.
Hi,
I need
Chrissy's
to get-
mom.
Her car has to come in for service again.
Well, don't tell it now. We'll tell them next week.
Brian, if you ever get an opportunity to come race with this organization, while you're out here on my side of it, but if you're on the East Coast, you run across these folks, you need to get yourself one of Chrissy's mom's cookies. They are so good. They actually have a posse and have inspired 2 themes from 2 different teams that are not related to her. These cookies are legendary and are actually used as currency.
It's true.
like prison
She should have
cigarettes.
like a Shopify store or something. It sounds like.
She should, but she has a more than part-time job babysitting nephews, or grandson. So
her grandchildren.
yeah,
Your
she probably would
nephews.
rather, yes, I'm sorry, my nephew's her grandson. She probably would rather do that though. Anyway, it's main topic time.
As we mentioned, our guest, very accomplished racer, started at a grassroots level like we did, coming from a non-racing background, which I think a lot of folks can relate to. Chris kind of fell into this on his own, and Chrissy was always a car person, but I mean, your parents weren't racers. Jeff's really the only one that it came into this from a family standpoint. So you leased the BMW, you found the BMW Car Club of America pamphlet in the glove box, and thank God you didn't decide to go on like one of their wine and cheese tours. You went to the track day instead, because otherwise, it'd be everyone wine. So you're volunteering, you discovered the process is awful. And as someone like literally back in the day that stood in the line in the early 90s to sign all the forms and sign everything up for the SCCA autocrosses, I want to thank you from the bottomest, deepest parts of my soul. You have made the automotive world so much better. Developed program became known as motorsport.reg, and it has transformed our sport. So Brian, give us the, you got a lot of stuff in there. This is awesome. Give us the 30-second elevator pitch, but I see lots of talking points in here, so we'll get to that.
I mean, the pamphlet is the thing that set it all in motion. And I think a combination of wanting to go to the track more than I could afford and trying to find some way to do it for less is what led me to volunteer. And it all just went downhill from there. I just happened to have the right skill set from my professional background that I could do some software. And it kind of went from there. I mean, it was really a hobby and honestly a tax write-off for a long time. My dad's a CPA. And so it was like, hey, if this is a business.
Don't tell people that.
Don't tell the secrets.
That's a secret.
No, we want everyone to know that secret because that means more people get to come play with us, right? So
As long as we don't all get caught.
Yes. As long as the
Don't
auditors
do it.
don't
It's
come.
legal. It's totally legal. We're not
It's a
even
separate
dancing
problem.
in a gray area. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. it's just, I mean, I think like most people who listen to this show and like yourselves, probably it's a slippery slope. And so I go from doing a couple track days a year to having a dedicated track day car to having a truck and a trailer and a race car, and like lots of bad financial decisions. So that's just, that's the thing. And so here I am 18 or 19 years later, and I'm basically still doing the same thing.
Chasing the dragon.
Yeah. You know, it's, I think, what we see, so, you know, running MotorsportReg, we work with hundreds of thousands of people who come into this hobby, into the sport. And what we see is that either they come once, maybe twice, and they check an item off their bucket list, or they're in it sort of for life. And if you look at like SCCA, for example, and these people who are out there working and flagging corners every weekend, like they use up all of their paid time off at work to come out and eat a bad bologna sandwich and stand on a corner in either horrible rain or hot sun and make it so that the racers can drive around in circles. And like, you don't do that unless you have a condition. You know, in our case, we like to call it passion, but there could be other terms for it as well. And so I think we're just all lucky to be part of something like that.
Jeff, being the child of a regional SCCA president, one of our things is we actually bring bags of goodies for the corner workers: water, lipstick, piece of fruit, of course, you know, some Chrissy's mom's cookies, baked goods. Yes.
It's always baked goods.
Yeah. At certain tracks, they genuinely, they're like, oh, we were worried you guys weren't here. Thank God you're here. Cause we bring them into the drivers meetings. So it is, the appreciation for the people that make your passion possible. I think it's like just step one of being a human.
So quick question about MotorsportReg. Are you still like some sort of principal in that, or have you like sold that company and the Frankenstein's monster continues to go?
It's a combination of the two, I guess. So, you know, maybe 2008 or so, I had a friend, a kind of a mentor who convinced me that maybe this thing was a business and not just a tax write-off. And so that's when I sort of set my eyes on trying to build something from it. And it took about 10 years, because in 2019 is when we actually got acquired by Hagerty. And so today, in my managing director title, what it really means is that I oversee all of our product development. So I'm still involved in a technical capacity for what we build and how we go about it and what problems we're trying to solve. And then the other half is sort of outward facing, like talking to folks like you, representing the company, helping out with all the other things we're doing. Because I think inside motorsports, Hagerty is not super well known. At least it wasn't 3 years ago before we did our acquisition. It's like, that's the company that has insurance for old cars. And I mean, honestly, when they first approached us, I was like, you guys have insurance for old cars. Why would I want to talk to you? You know, but the mission really, as the CEO, McKeel Hagerty, sees it, is that it's to preserve and keep car culture alive for future generations. And when I think about the fact that in some small capacity, I admit small, but we've made it easier to find and organize these events, which means more people have been able to do it. If just a few more, 20 something me's 20 years ago can get into it and have the experiences that I've had, like, first, it brings me an incredible amount of joy and pride to see that happen. But it is really like making sure that this is sustainable for the future, because, the comment you made about the corner workers, if corner workers did not volunteer, an SCCA race weekend would cost you another $250 or $300 per week.
Correct.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Like
people just don't really understand that without passion, maybe it would be cheesy to say passion is the fuel that runs this hobby.
Oh, that's so cute.
It is. It is.
No, it's so true.
It really takes so many people who burn midnight oil just because they love it. And so what's cool about Hagerty and about being at Hagerty is that I get to be part of that in a larger way. And so we're still doing the same thing. I'm still involved in some of the same ways, but we're having this larger impact. And we are now seeing it with all the stuff that Hagerty is doing. You've maybe seen our banners trackside at the IMSA races on the TV broadcast. We've done the TV show. We've done, this WRL and the Shift Up Now program. There's a lot of cool stuff that we're working on that I will admit, sometimes it sounds a little altruistic about the ways that Hagerty supports the hobby. But we do have some very good economic engines, like with our insurance, and it allows us to be a benefactor of the sport and the hobby and all those things. So it's just an awesome place to be. And plug, we are always hiring. So careers.hagerty.com.
That's okay.
I'm going to jump ahead a little bit because it's a great thing. One of your crew on the round 3 is Lester Epps. Or Les Epps.
Yep.
And I met Les years ago. He was an autocrosser. He built that Acura of his out of, I think, a shell. And I was doing instruction for a supercar program, and he obviously knew what he was doing. We had a great time. We went out there and he's like, well, how do I get your job? And I made a few jokes about, wasting all your money racing. And he's like, all right, check, did this. And the next year when I
did
went,
that one already.
yeah, the next year when I went back to Audubon, he showed up. He was one of the instructors. He'd gotten hired. And then now he is, I'm trying to find space for motorsports in my life, and he's made motorsports his life. And we were at New Jersey Motorsports Park. And of course, Hagerty is there. Hagerty's a big supporter of just motorsports everywhere. And they had a poster on the side that said, for your, race car. And it was a picture of Lester's Acura right there. And it's this great shot. And of course, it's Lester. So he's smiling and waving and so happy to be there. And I put something on our Instagram. So when you say, yes, it is altruistic, but they're legitimately doing this across the board.
We have I find it actually pretty inspirational, because it's not a given that 10, 15, 20, 30 years from now, that this hobby and this sport will be around. Now, on one hand, if you look at like what horses happened in the last 100 years, we don't use horses to go to market anymore. Our goods, they make it on their own. In fact, they go in a car, right? So there's a precedent that we can turn something that is today maybe a commodity for transportation that some of us really enjoy into something that is a sport or a hobby for the long haul, but there's no guarantee that happens. And I think the thing that McKeel, by sort of identifying this keep car culture alive for future generations piece that's really important, is that unless people and cars come together, you don't have culture. Like we, as Hagerty, we do insure a lot of cars that just sit in a garage. And in my mind, it's good business, but that's not really creating culture for the future. But when you go to your Lemons race, or you go to a WL race, or you go to a Concours or a Cars and Coffee or any of those things, that's like where people make connections, and that's what brings people back. And so if we can't do that, then there is no there for the future. So it's awesome to see someone stepping up and trying to play a role in doing that in a big tent way, and not in a my little fiefdom way.
That's
Chris,
pretty awesome.
did you guys use a Hagerty policy?
We did for an HPDE. We did in our NSX.
We had an
When we did it, it was
emergency
actually-
car change and had on the way to
when
the
your
track.
Lemons car blows up
Dyno.
Don't say dyno. We don't dyno our Lemons car.
Well, it blew up. So
New
did.
build blew up on the dyno.
so
on the way to
All
pit
right,
race.
just freely admitting it, huh?
Yep, this was years ago.
Yeah,
so
that's
we
true.
drove back home, took the Civic out, put the NSX in, and in the truck on the way on the iPad, got a Hagerty HPDE policy.
Yep. And it made us feel better. It did, because I didn't want that car on the track anyway. So fortunately nothing happened. So it was all good, but that's why you have insurance. So it was definitely truthfully one of two names we went to. And it's obviously a name that everybody knows.
The easiest one to deal with, frankly.
Good compromise between not going at all and going.
Yep. Totally.
Yeah. Well, and of course everybody wants to bring an NSX on the track. It was just,
I mean, it was fun.
Yeah. I just didn't want the supercar on the track.
The prospect of riding that car off, not so fun.
I want to say one more thing about MotorsportReg before we go on, and it involves sharing my MotorsportReg account. So we love racing.
I'm scared here.
And we love breaking the algorithm. I just want to say, whatever work you did, good work, because I have been able to register some really bizarre cars, including a 17-foot Sea Sprite, a 73 Citroen SM, an Isuzu Ombre. See,
We don't judge. Like I said, we're big tent. We're big tent. Anybody's welcome. If they love cars, you're welcome.
I still like the color on the Civic and Secret various.
Various.
That is the best way to describe them.
Yeah,
Pretty
I think
much.
it's in the giraffe print.
It is,
in that little tiny.
but that doesn't
thumbnail
mean
there.
that that's what it was when
That
it came to
wasn't
the
what
track.
It is all the time. And-
This is good. I like this.
We
Yeah,
do
all
have
right,
people who ask us to have like restrictions on what kinds of colors you can choose, but then you wouldn't be able to have
Various.
And when it's a giraffe, really, what color would I say?
We always put giraffe. Like we
Yeah.
put the print Godzilla, like lizard is what we put as the color because that's what it was.
So yeah, so
Yep.
thank you for giving us the flexibility to fly our freak flag on all of our Lemons cars, because and I love MotorsportReg. I think it's a great platform, so I definitely want to give you some kudos there. Should we talk about racing? I mean, I could talk nerd computer stuff forever, and I don't know if that's really the market here, but
We can talk racing. I like racing.
Go for it.
would someone have a question, or should I throw one out?
It's all you, Jeff. You're Jeff Gross. This is fresh track.
Or something.
I noticed behind you. Is that a 2002 back there?
No, it's a CSL Batmobile.
No.
CSL
There you go.
Batmobile. Excellent.
One
Yeah.
of the more
There you go.
famous ones.
Yeah. And you can't see, but the wheels are off the ground, jumping on fluke plots. This is like back in the.
If I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken, is that Peter Gregg or is that the other one?
I don't know if this is Hans Stuck or if it's Peter Gregg. I'm not sure which.
Okay.
Is that like an actual picture behind you? I assumed it was a virtual.
No, it's wallpaper.
Oh,
Oh,
I totally thought it was just some background.
who
picture
needs
you
a
stole.
background when
So we
you
didn't
lose
see
your
like
head
dirty
and you're
house like I got going on.
Man,
No,
I got to go redecorate my office now.
Jesus.
Ah,
This
that's
is a
awesome.
COVID. This is a COVID setup. If you're going to be on Zoom for 25 hours a day, you got to do something fun.
I
not just have your
hatch on the back of my wall. I don't
Chris
know.
just put his background up.
There you go.
Painted his wall quick.
There you go. That's a various colored background there.
Yep.
So I was going to ask if that was you in the BMW, but I guess not. So tell us about your BMW that you're currently with WRL. What's the story? Obviously, you're backed by Hagerty, but I'm sure that's just an excuse. You know, you convince your bosses to throw some names on it, right? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, this year comes out really of doing the TV program last year with MotorsportReg. And so I had the chance to go down and represent the company at Sebring last year when they ran a 24-hour race at Sebring. It was the first time that anyone had done it. It was just before the Creventic race, actually. So no one really knew how it was going to turn out. You know, all the legend about the bumps is like no cars are going to finish this race. It turns out that actually people drove pretty sensibly and it wasn't that bad. But Hagerty and the Round 3 team have a partnership that is because of that TV show. And so I get to come along and kind of be our brand ambassador and play this year. We also have some of the Shift Up Now drivers that are there. And so the Round 3 team has 4 cars. There's a Porsche Cayman, a Porsche Boxster, and then 2 BMW M4 GT4s. So the GT4s run in the top class, the GTO class for WRL. They're sort of detuned, so it's not full GT4 spec, but they are. I mean, it's my first time really driving a modern race car because I've mostly driven old BMWs, spec Miata, old stuff, really, just old stuff. And so these new cars, you know, paddle shifters, like I said, it has air conditioning. The air conditioning
that's
blows into the
crazy. Air
seats
conditioning because it's
and the face.
basically a moderately stock class, so you can't lighten the chassis too much, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is how it's homologated. So
Yeah.
the way it comes is the way you race it. So windows run up. You have the air conditioning on the inside. Paddle shifters, you know, it's got the nannies, which you can disable to varying degrees and stuff, but it's a proper modern GT sports car, even if it's a little bit limited on power. So I will say driving it on street tires can get, you know, as you all know, can get a little exciting. But you know, I think we were at Daytona a couple months ago. We did like 165 across the oval.
That'll wake you up.
On street
Yeah,
tires.
there you go. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's raining. I mean, we weren't doing 165 in the rain, but it rained.
I was
there, of
like,
course.
okay, what? Good for
yeah.
you.
It's a fun car to drive. And I personally, and I'm sure like you all, love driving a manual, but it's also a lot of fun to drive the floppy paddles and really just be all about the racecraft and be focusing on those sort of things. So it's been a fun experience this year. We're sharing the car with James Candelaria, who you all might be familiar, makes the Sentinel in-car streaming hardware. So people who are like streaming their in-car footage, especially for endurance races, use James's streaming hardware called Sentinel. It's like one of the few things that will actually stream reliably over a cell phone signal. So people kind of pony up for that thing.
Did not know it was him, but we have definitely watched their product.
Yeah, it's super cool. He's got so we make Race Hero as well, which is a live timing app that you might have heard of. It's similar to Race Monitor.
Maybe once or
I was
twice.
going to talk about it because it's on my
Maybe
phone.
once.
Yeah. So that was born out of really our endurance racing, my endurance racing experience, which is like, you need some way to track what is going on over the course of a very long race. But James, for example, uses one of our APIs so that when you look at the in-car feed, it shows like what position the car is in, who the driver is that's in the car, what their last lap times were, all those kinds of things. So it's a really,
Wow.
it just makes following along from home possible, really, and fun.
We've done that from afar, really afar. Mental has watched from the other side of the world and asked us how things are going. And we've said, because, I mean, he can
Leave us
you
alone.
watch it.
We're racing.
Right. Well, he says, who's in the car? Oh, that was a great lap. Who's now in the car? So we live by stuff like
Yes.
that.
When
They're-
I was deployed to the Middle East and unable to race. And so, yes, it's 3:00 in the morning. And I'm annoying them while they're trying to,
My phone won't focus, but that's my race.
yes. Well, and then, early on, I think one of the first apps, I don't want to like throw another app under the bus because that just feels dickish, but it was like an app. It was like an app that you use to like monitor a race. And it started out as just pay this money and here's this app. Oh, well, now you got to pay a little more money. Well, all right, pay this $50. We'll never charge you again, except now we're going to charge you $5 a month. And if you want like the detail stuff. And I kept saying, why doesn't some gearhead build a better one?
Yeah, and Erase Here absolutely is. I mean, we frequently have it up on the iPad in the paddock so that people can see it as they walk by. But most of the time, we just all stare at our phones.
Completely. And it's like
endurance
like
races
the worst, but
are
we do.
crazy because like if everything's going well, we're all just literally sitting in a bag chair staring at our phone.
Isn't it funny that we're all at the racetrack? It's like a 5 senses experience going around you nonstop, and everyone's got their phone in their hand.
Yeah.
And normally I'm against that in life, but there's plenty of times you're just like, wait, who's winning that class? Wait, oh my gosh, what just happened? Wait, they just stopped. Where are they? Right. Like, so you're watching, especially with
go, oh,
right.
What happened?
Especially with endurance racing, because it's not always the best sport to watch. So you can watch it for a little while. You can stand from a corner. You're like, okay, cool. Well, what's going on over there? And then sometimes you're just like, well, I just need to like stir my lunch, but I also want to know what's going on with. So, those apps they're really helpful to be able to have a clue and look at race times. And it's just because racing is going around you, but there's so much more to it than just watching the cars go around.
Yeah. 10 hours in, you can't tell who's leading and who isn't without those apps. So,
or you're watching the race develop and all of a sudden you see someone move 4 places down and their lap time hasn't updated. You immediately come out of the garage and start looking around. Where'd they break down?
Right.
What happened?
Yep. Or see him come in on the hook and you're like, okay, then now what happened? Now this changes things.
Yeah. So you've probably seen that the cars will turn like a pinkish color sometimes when we think they should have come around, but they haven't.
Yep.
And so we actually, in the middle of the 25 hours
I don't
of
think
Thunder
I
Hill,
ever noticed that. I mean, I've noticed the colors and stuff, but I never knew what it meant.
yeah, well, it means you'll see that usually followed by them dropping down the order because we call it gone missing. We just don't know why, but they are not showing up. And so
Let's
we actually
hope they didn't really go missing. Let's hope they're on the track somewhere just stopped and just be like, well, I decided to drive home.
Like my laptop somewhere in my house.
I needed to go
at VIR
out for
last
there.
weekend. At VIR last weekend, I came over to the top of a roller coaster and I looked out the window and there was a guy standing out by the trees and just a guy, no car. So a
like
racer.
in a race suit or
Yeah,
like
helmet,
a homeless
race suit,
guy. Because
just,
we've had that at
standing out
Lemons
there.
races.
Just no car. So it's possible to go missing at certain places.
It's terrifying. Yes.
They were just camo painted. That's all.
right.
We,
It's in
we
the
had one
giraffe
go up-
field with
yeah.
your giraffe, right?
We had one go off so deep at NOLA that I was officiating, and I on the chat with the recovery guys, they're like, "Nope, we're leaving that one until after the race is over," because it was so gone, so out there.
I feel like we had the same thing with CMP, and we had somebody go into there was a river.
They went to the swamp full of poisonous snakes. at
Yes,
CMP.
that happened. Right.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Also, where the homeless guy just walked out and said, "What's going on?"
I mean,
No,
there's
that's a
races
Summit Point. So, Hyperfest.
Summit Point. That's right. We had that happen there too, as well. Yes.
Oh shoot.
Oh, race
So,
cars.
I'm sorry. Did you have something to say, Chrissy? Go ahead.
No, you can go.
I didn't want to steal the next question.
No,
go
you're
ahead.
doing a great job.
So you talked us about how you kind of like stumbled into this through the you kind of jumped right to your endurance stuff. Was there like track day stuff and autocross you mentioned really briefly? Like when did you make the jump to road racing? Did you do it in your car? Did you build a car? Have you what's your other side of that?
When I started with the BMW club, I did do they had a ladder back then. And so you had to go to a car control clinic before you could go to a track day. So I went and did the skid pad exercises and the slalom, all that kind of stuff. And then that made
car
you
control
eligible.
clinic was really good though. Like that was actually a nice thing to do to intro people to before they're out there. I
We
wish
are
more
big
people would have it.
proponents of track education before a race. So
Having been a right seat instructor later on, I very much appreciate a car control clinic in advance of someone showing up. So I concur. So I did a little autocross, I did some track days, and then I got to in the BMW program, they like A, B, C, D. So A is the advanced, D is the novice. And I got to kind of a high B, maybe low A. I was driving an E30 M3 track day car that I'd bought, just a street car, but had a roll bar in it. And
it just happened to have a, what would now be like $100,000 car.
I know. I
Did
rue
you
the
keep
day.
it?
No, of course not. Of course not. Yeah, I'm sad about that every time I think about it. It was sweet too. It had the motorsport stripes that went from like the left front fender over the top of the right rear fender.
Oh.
It was a street car. So I would drive that car to and from the track. You drive around the Bay Area, no one would even look twice. Like people are so clueless, paying so little attention that no one would even notice that you're driving this crazy, basically race car around the city.
Like, I put a body kit on it. Much too many episodes of Miami Vice.
Yeah, dumb stripes.
But it's also challenging to drive your car to the racetrack and then drive home.
Well, that's true.
There's a certain part that says like, should I keep pushing this car because I have to drive it home?
That was my first race cars. I went BMW CCA Club Racing because of the same people. I knew them, yada, yada, yada. And I bought someone else's E30 M3 that had already been converted to a race car. And I did.
So you've owned multiple E30 M3s?
Yeah, and I got rid of them all like an idiot. Actually, the second one was crashed, not while I was driving. So good. I made out okay. I got paid, but unfortunately, the car went to the great junkyard in the sky.
Mm-hmm.
Pour one out.
Yeah, exactly. Especially for that car.
I know we're focused on, oh my God, he had two, multiple E30 M3s. I feel really good though, that someone of your intelligence also just like, all right, I'm done with this BMW, getting rid of the next one. I'm like, all right, okay. So, they weren't
not that much back then. They were just old boxy cars that had a high revving 4-cylinder that no one wants to drive around the street.
Yeah, it's a terrible street car.
Yeah.
Everybody wants the 6-cylinder. Who would get the 4-cylinder?
Yeah.
So you did the ladder and then you got into BMW CCA racing, right?
Yeah, and then I went spec Miata racing with SCCA because the number of racers and the build quality of the cars, I couldn't tell whether I was a good driver, a bad driver, had a fast car, a slow car. And so I went and I bought the spec Miata that had won the championship the year previously, so that I knew there was assuming that the car was
I will find out if the car is good or is me.
Yeah. So I knew the car could do it. And so I went out and then I started to learn. That's where I really learned how to drive with spec Miata, because there was, at that time out here in the Bay Area, we had 65 car fields basically every weekend. And it was, you blink and you've lost 10 spots. So you learn very quickly how to make it or not.
Yeah. You talk about having the ability to, correct an error. There is no correcting an error in a spec Miata, in a 65 spec Miata field.
Yeah.
No, you're just avoiding like carnage.
It's not that,
but if you miss a shift, you probably drop 10 spots, right? You don't even have to put a wheel off. You could just do a lousy apex and get past 5, 6, 7 times.
If you're lucky, you just get past. Otherwise, you get punted.
Well, yeah.
There's not as much of that as people make it out to be, I would say. But that's my spec Miata defensiveness coming in to support my brothers and sisters. I will just say, I'll point out one stat, that the runoffs, I think for 4 years in a row, the spec Miata race was the only or one of the only couple races that went flag to flag green with no full course cautions.
Yeah, green to green, right? That's the SCCA motto right now. Quit screwing around, people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, they had a lot of things to learn from to get there, so there's that. But
your teammate Sarah Montgomery, she is the first female to ever podium in the MX5 Cup.
That is true. She's a great driver, and this came up actually just this last weekend because there was a little bit of stuff that happened towards the end of the race where 3 cars thought they had won, and because of a glitch in timing and scoring, and no one really knew who. And
oh, that's the worst.
But it was the Miata that won, right?
Oh.
No, it was the Miata.
Oh, which color? Which color?
No, at VIR. Because they were just at VIR. You did. We'll talk about how well you did, but yeah.
Yeah. So we had a little bit of glitch there, but if you look at the team, like our team had 4 female drivers on it this year, and Sarah being one of them. She is a very accomplished race car driver. She's won a lot of races, and she just happens to be a woman. I think it's super cool, especially when you're in an endurance situation, that you can drive side by side with sort of anybody from any background. And going back to like the spec Miata background, it's really see how you stack up and or how to learn from your co-drivers. That's the one thing that I love about it, is looking at the data, the same car, the same time, you really can see how you as an individual can get better. Sarah's awesome. She's She also has great social media. If you follow her social media, like she's just got a great personality, a great attitude towards things.
Mental
eons
your
ago.
contact. We'll have her on next month.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Eons ago, we both taught the teen driving clinic at Atlanta Motorsports Park, and this is when she was also working for Porsche. So, and she was always able to relate to young folks about just the importance of being safe and being smart. She is. And then 2019 ran into her at 25 hours at Thunderhill. So yeah. I've been following her career for a while, and she is, and it is easy to do on her social media. She's amazing.
She's she's from the South. She's from New Orleans originally. And I don't think she'd mind me saying this, like she's a little sassy in a way that's fun to be around. And also you can see it as very apparent in her social and everything. But man, she just makes like the paddock a more fun place to be. And when the helmet goes on though, she's as cutthroat as anybody else. And I think that's the way to be, in my opinion. It can be fun off the track and it could be hardcore competition on the track.
And not to sell her out for, she was at a Lemons race, and she's actually done this a couple of times where Lemons knows who she is, and a team just isn't getting it. They keep collecting penalties, and they'll look around and be like, I could grab any rando here. And do you know how to drive a car? And she'll kind of shrug and yeah, okay, maybe, and come over there and make them walk her through. This is how a clutch works. This is what an apex is. And she'll go, okay, wait, what do I do? What gear does this go in again? And then her outlap will be 5 seconds faster than their best.
That is awesome.
That's pretty.
All right, so we're talking a lot about. I'm jumping in here. I'm not sure even if you're done with your history here, but I'm all about lady drivers. So tell me, if you can, about the Shift Up relationship. Shift Up Now relationship. I've been following since the start, and I would love to know. And there's plenty of people that probably don't know, but how it started, how it's growing, what's new besides the shirt that I bought today, because they just got shirts out. So, yep, and there was one on clearance, which I bought one as well. Yes.
Nice. I don't actually know the original story, the origin story for Shift Up Now, but I can tell you what I know now. And that is that they are really, Pippa Mann and some of the other leaders of that organization are doing the hard work of raising awareness and raising funds in some cases to support women drivers who are trying to either get a start or to go somewhere. And so most of those tend to be younger drivers who are trying to make a career out of motor racing. And so that's like a Sarah Montgomery or a Lonnie Unser, who's also on our team.
Yeah.
But I'd say probably as much as funding helps, it's also the organization and the awareness that they're building, like with the t-shirts, that's also super helpful. They've got a great social program, and they're out there just spreading the words, like we said earlier, that these are just competitors who happen to be female. And I think, yes, some people might argue sometimes like, well, women have an easier sell from a marketing partnership perspective or something because they've got a story to tell. They're different, yada, yada, yada. I don't buy that. I mean, everybody
not for a second.
They got to do their own hustle.
Chrissy has gotten us tons of commercials and lots of sponsors for our racing.
No, I haven't.
No.
Millions of dollars.
No.
Sure.
No.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. She's the one that always spots the IMSA scouts in the stands.
They always show up.
Shift Up Now is just, I think, a really great program that's raising awareness for these people who are trying to do what all of us are trying to do: go out there and have fun behind the wheel. So I love working with them. The new t-shirt is pretty awesome. So everyone should go check out Shift Up Now. I think it's shiftupnow.com.
I was going to go find it.
Correct.
But
I'm on it right now looking at the
t-shirt. The link's already in the show notes.
Oh, okay. Well, I have almost worn out my race like a girl, #race like a girl shirt. Yep. I first of all just really like the shirt, but also wear it all the time because I want people to look at it, think about it. And I mean, I have had my fair share, and I'm just in crappy motorsports, like just normal sports that everybody can get into, of people trying to not be biased against me. I don't wear a pink helmet. I wear basically the same outfit as Jeff's brother. I have the same suit. It's black helmet, black racing gloves. I make it so that people don't know who I am because I've had problems where people have said, that's the girl in the car. I'm not going to let her pass.
No, I can't let her pass.
Or when I get out of the car and I look like crap and people are like, well, which man was racing? And it was me. And they say, oh, cool. It was cool racing against you. I don't have the problem as much now because I'm established in the sport, but it's taken a while to get there. And I think and I started 11 years ago now. So it's taken some time, but not to say that Pippa's been doing it for a long time. And she's exactly the answer of why it's important for it to be popular for ladies to get out there, because she can't find a spot at Indy anymore. So it's very difficult to do that. So I just think that the work that you guys are doing and all of the sponsors that work with Shift Up Now is integral to having more women in the sport. But it's wonderful to see that they get rides all the time, and I'm sure there's a lot of work that's going into the background to get the ladies that are with this program rides. But it's fun to see them out on track. So I appreciate it very much.
Well, I think it's important, and I'd say let's go back to the saving driving for future generations. Half of the population is female. Like, we are just being silly to not include 50% of the people that could be out there having fun and supporting the sport and putting more racers on the grid or more people in track days, right? It's stupid to limit your market to half of the market.
Yeah. And I always say that there's, unlike sports like wrestling, or there's sports that make man muscles different than lady muscles, right? But nobody is different pushing a pedal in the car. You can be at different rates and different, how long you've been doing it. And if you haven't been driving as long as, these Hooms, then you have more to learn. But that doesn't mean that you as a person are much different than, lady playing football is going to be different than a man playing football. Maybe can't play together, but there's nothing that says that racing can't happen together. So, yeah, but we need to get there. And it seems to be a pretty uphill battle. Though I do have to say that there's plenty more women, in the last 10 years, there's many more women, at least in the paddock, if not on track as well.
In our paddocks, I think
absolutely,
especially I've seen a lot more women, still pretty white, but we'll get it there.
You're not wrong.
Yeah. Let me be vulnerable with you for a minute. So this issue of Bimmer has a story about Samantha Tan in it, who's racing GT3 BMWs this year.
For those of you listening on the podcast, Brian is holding up a magazine.
It's called Bimmer Life. Yeah, it's got a story about Samantha Tan.
Boring. I'm kidding.
Very boring magazine. How would read that?
The paper's nice. It's got
photos. Of course it is. Of course.
It actually has a big female symbol right on the front cover there, right?
Exactly right. So the overall issue is about women, but one of the stories is about Samantha Tan. And so, true story, the two BMWs that we have on the round 3 racing team this year are Samantha Tan's previous GT4.
What? I had no idea.
Let me tell you something. These cars have manual brakes, and they have a 100 bar brake pedal. That's a 1500 PSI brake pedal. I will tell you that nobody on our team, all 3 guys, has been, for the first half of the season, could not get to 100% brake pressure. And this is the car that Samantha Tan drove very successfully, either SRO or in World Challenge, whatever it was. Like, to your point, Chrissy, the physicality of it, I mean, she has stronger legs than we all have. And that's the maximum strength you would ever need, is to be able to push this brake pedal. Yeah. So it is really an equal opportunity sport. Mm-hmm. And I feel very sad that I have not done enough like deadlifts and squats to be able to push.
Chrissy could probably lift all of us.
No, I wouldn't say that. No, I wouldn't say that.
Would.
I think mental might take her in distance.
Not anymore.
But Chrissy would probably beat her in a sprint. I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, anyway, it's not about muscle unless you have no power steering. And then occasionally it's a little bit more difficult because you need a little bit more on your arms. But that's if your car maker decides that you don't actually need power steering. So there's that. But anyway, thank you. I think it's a great program. Look it up, find a lady, get a shirt, and they're like cheap for shirts. Just get it out there.
Yeah. Support
shirt. Yeah, without doubt. I'm going to jump into something here because you sent us a whole list of things. You're like, here's the whole bunch of amazing things I did. Feel free to ask me about any of them.
Thanks for making us feel like a loser.
Yeah,
Brian.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Please tell me that the Trans-Siberian Rally, I've looked at the website now for like a few minutes before you showed up. Oh my God. Tell me about that. Did you participate in this event?
No, although I'm not sure that I still didn't have the better angle. So Marshall Pruitt, who works at Racer Magazine today, has a great podcast.
We follow Marshall Pruitt on his socials. Yes. Never met him, but he's awesome. But if he wants to be on the show, let us know.
I'm sure he would do that. He's a racer through and through. So many years ago, he was a writer at Speed TV for the website.
Yeah.
And this Trans-Siberian Rally was happening. And I don't know if they didn't have somebody to go or if nobody wanted to go. I sometimes think it might be the latter, but he offered if I wanted to go and basically write for Speed Channel to go cover this rally. And so the deal was at the time is that Porsche Global dictated to all of their distributors around the world that they would each enter 2 Cayenne Trans-Siberia editions into this race that goes from the Red Square in Moscow to Ulaanbaatar in Mongolia. And so Porsche Cars North America entered 1 Canadian car with a Canadian duo driving and navigating, and 1 American car with a driver and navigator. And so basically I went over as the representative for Speed Channel to be media for this event. And we started in Moscow and like watched the cars roll out of the Red Square. We flew in an old Soviet era helicopter to go cover the first stage. We went to Mongolia.
Mental just had a little shudder right there.
It did have a
helicopter.
Just no Russian helicopter, little PTSD flashbacks from UN work. Yep, they're awful.
We heard later that it had a rough landing a couple weeks after we were there. So maybe we got lucky. But Marshall Pruitt, again, I don't know if he didn't want to go or what the deal was, but sent me over there to cover his media. And it was an amazing experience just to see these folks who were driving. It was almost like a Lemons rally in the sense of the hodgepodge of things that people showed up to the start line with, aside from the Porsches, because Porsche had like an organized OEM program, but like the other stuff that the privateers brought, it was all over the place. And yeah,
talking about like effed up Ladas, and
it wasn't like they were mostly trucks, but a lot of Russian.
This is a mostly off-road rally, according to what I'm looking at on the internet.
Yep. So a lot of long distance, a lot of money to bribe local officials with, a lot of ways to get through the backcountry, as fast as you could, but just a grueling, sort of more rural and less covered version of Dakar, really. Fewer people paying attention and more ways for things to go wrong. Like the Canadian team, their engine in their Cayenne wound up like 250 yards outside of the car after they had a crash.
Oh.
Yikes.
And when you crash out there.
And similar to like Para Dakar, you could get shot at just by like the local insurgents, right? I mean,
so they crash, the engine separates itself from the chassis. Porsche shows up like 12 hours later and everything's gone. Like everything has been taken. There's not a single bolt left that has not been taken.
And right now there's some Lada out there going really fast. That's hilarious.
Fun time. I mean, but that's, those folks that showed up there, folks from the Middle East, Africa, South America, Europe, Asia, all those places. And I've had an opportunity to be around a lot of international people because of our work. I've gone to some FIA sport events, which are like it's like their business conference, if you will, for the FIA. And the thing that's interesting is really people are the same everywhere. The affliction that we have, whether you want to say it's an addiction or it's just a passion, they really are the same everywhere. And so whether they're showing up at this rally with some super awesome truck, or they're part of the Porsche program, or they're doing rally in Africa, or they're doing whatever they're doing, like really people are just the same. And I find that, I personally find it to be so comforting that you can sort of find a gearhead anywhere and like make a connection with someone, even if you can't really speak their language, if you have a hard time communicating, but like you still have something in common that you can geek out about and make a lifelong connection.
Doesn't matter what language it's in, fuel injector or punch it.
I don't know about punch it. I feel like that might be a cultural reference.
If I go like this, like punch it. Let's go.
I feel like mental could relate to that so well, just with all of your travel.
This means to say if you're in a car and you look at someone and you do this, yes, that means one thing. You better be buckled up. Yes.
When you were active duty, you were all over the place, just going to racetracks, and I'm sure you had plenty of people to talk to about.
Look, I did that to the taxi driver from the downtown Dallas hotel to Love Field. I said, look, don't spare the horses. I didn't even need to get to the words, man. I just did that. And it was like,
it's like, okay, if you're serious.
That makes Uber rides a lot more exciting.
Yeah, that was a regular taxi.
Regular
That was
ride.
crazy. Awesome. There's a ton of stuff here. I don't want to, I feel like we could talk to you for like 12 more shows. There's still a ton of stuff on your list. Nürburgring Insider. That's like the insider guide in case you're going to the ring, right? There's so much stuff on here. So much stuff about, just Hagerty and the FIA Sport Conference you mentioned real quick. Is there, what's the one item we haven't talked about that you'd like to tell us all about?
Well, I would say, I think the Nürburgring is the mecca for most.
Yeah,
most
this is
road-
what I
road
was going to
racing
ask about.
enthusiasts.
So
Yeah. So there's a 42-page guide, a downloadable ebook on NürburgringInsider.com that I put together because on my wall, I can see it over here, I've got like three goals written down. One of them is learn to kite surf, which I've had that goal now for a long time and I keep not doing it. So maybe it's not really a goal. One is travel to Cuba because I just want to go before it gets opened up to the whole world and it becomes less interesting, or Americans at least. And the third is race the 24 hours of the Nürburgring. And I
Race
think
it. Okay, not even just drive it. We're gonna race it. Okay.
Go big or stay home. Yeah.
Apparently.
I think that is the hardest race on the planet.
You're
think,
probably not wrong.
I can't think of something that would be harder.
The track, the variable weather conditions, the insane amount of traffic, and the huge closing speeds, and the fact that there's no runoff.
Let's not forget the paddock party that could kill you just by walking through.
Which is good because if you retire early, you've got entertainment. But I think that's the one for me. So I put that guide together mostly because I wanted to figure out how to go do that race, and it turns out that there's a bunch of prerequisites you have to kind of jump through hoops to do. You got to get an international FIAC license, then you got to go to like a ground school there, then you got to do some time trials and some small races before you can do the 24-hour. But in my mind, if there's like one race that I want to go and see if I can be competitive at, that is the one. Because if you can do that track in those conditions and that traffic with those, both in the dark and the light, that's
because you're not memorizing that course, no matter, unless your last name is Schmidt, you're going to have to spend.
I don't know.
Time
He's
Some
got
of
a
those
sim and a
sim
lot of
people-
time.
Some people do a lot of sim time and talk
That's what
about
I'm
that track
saying.
like you would not believe.
Yeah. Or at
Yes,
least
I'm
learn
talking
to
to you, Chris Egan, out there.
learn a couple of the corners anyway. Get used to a couple corners. I know that doesn't help much at all.
I did go there once and just run like 4 laps in a rental car kind of deal. And the guy that was renting the car, when he talked about track knowledge, there was 2 things that really stood out to me. One was, he said, when he talked about track knowledge, he talked about it in terms of the hundreds of laps you have.
Yeah.
So he said, from 0 to 100 laps, you can expect to have this kind of experience and knowledge and yada, yada, yada. And then, from 100 to 300 laps, then you're actually in the danger zone because you think you know where the track is going, but you in fact don't. And then he said and then once you get to like 1,000 laps, you maybe could be considered a master of the course. And then he said the other thing is that as the speed of the car goes up, about every 30 seconds differential, it is effectively an all new track, because things that weren't bumps before, or the car didn't get light before, or now it does, or you don't have runoff, like as the speed of the car goes up, it's also basically a whole new track every time you go a little bit faster. And again, I just think like, man, you could spend your life driving that track. And maybe
it would be okay if you like lived inside the town, or like if that was your home track,
Or if you were like Sabine Schmitz and you got paid to do it.
oh
like
sure
daily.
sure then
Pour one
then-
out for her, Queen of the Ring.
right then
Well,
they're-
she got paid to do it because she did what Chrissy just said. She lived
Exactly.
there and she
Yeah.
drove it all the time.
but I'm sure out of all of the tracks in the world, we'll say that one is so notable that I'm not surprised they make it difficult to make sure that you're not just another person
the
that says
consequences are also quite severe should
Right.
you do it poorly.
Yeah, you might end up on a YouTube channel that Jeff watches on his desk at work
wouldn't be
like,
surprised.
for every hour of the day.
Yep.
It's when you drive around there, there's certain, like even on a tourist day when there's no racing going on, there are groups and crowds of people at certain corners, and they're only there for one reason.
to watch you screw up.
Oh,
They're
absolutely.
waiting for crashes.
Now,
Yeah.
I want to say, because I did look at it, the Nürburgring Insider isn't just for people who race, but it's also how to spectate, how to drive on it on these tourist days. And is that free from Hagerty?
Yeah. You just go download it from the website. You just put in an email address. We email it to you.
It's amazing.
Link is in our show notes.
Yeah.
I did it out of a labor of love. I mean, it was really like, I did this before Hagerty, and I was like, I just want to find out how to go do this. And I spent way too much time. It's like when you research a car project, you spend way too much time to figure out, like, Chris, what you're talking about, the
project. I understand those words.
the voltage,
Not together though.
but like Chris figured out the voltage and the oil and all the things for the boat, right? Like the process to do that. You spend all that time. If you document it, then somebody else at least has it a little bit easier. So it's my little gift of spending way too many wasted nights.
That is legitimately like the third passion project that you have created that is making this sport so much better. I mean, I knew you as the MotorsportReg person, but holy crap, this is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, just that would have been enough. But that, and combined with the Race Hero app, obviously this Nürburgring Insider thing, which sure I'll dream about, but probably never get to. But all of this plus running some amazing machinery.
And then and being with Hagerty, who is, you know, their motto is never stop driving. And there's some great videos they have on that. There's some great articles they have on that. And then just being a proponent for motorsports, and by being a proponent for motorsports, understand that has to include an inclusive attitude of, the question is, do you like cars? And if the answer is yes, then welcome to the fold, because there's no other reason to push someone out. You're the opposite. You're the anti-gatekeeper. You're like a gate crusher. This is great.
Well, you're all too kind, but I really don't see much. I think the only difference between me and maybe other people who have done less that might be supporting the hobby as the way you're describing it is just time, because we all have the same passion. And I think, you know, I spent many years working many long hours trying to build a business out of this thing, you know, to try to help the sport. And if anybody else had spent that same amount of time, they'd be making the same kinds of contributions. I think that's what's awesome about this, is like, whether it's something that like the technology stuff I've done, or it's in the paddock when one team goes and helps another team like fix a car, it's really all the same attitude. And that's why I think people stick around for life.
Or as long as cars and people, and we're allowed to still drive cars on racetracks.
Yeah. And in my 12 years in the Levin paddock, I have helped, like, you know, 10 or 12 people do that late night motor shift. You've helped like 55,000 people this year get to a motorsports event, right? I mean,
well, but you know, maybe the depth of the impact on that team that you helped do a motor swap deeper than helping a registration. Yeah, I think it all goes.
Sure. I mean, like I said, it's all. I'm very impressed. Thank you, Brian, for just everything you've done. There's still so many notes. Does anybody else want to chime in on anything, or shall we move on to our next thing?
Brian, we're going to put the links on there, but real quick, where can people find you? They want to follow these awesome stories.
Instagram is just my name, Brian Ghidinelli. So that'll be easier.
You're going to have to spell that for the people.
Yeah. Ghidinelli. It sounds like the chocolate guy, but unfortunately I don't have his money. And then on Twitter, just my last name, Ghidinelli. So again, Ghidinelli.
That's fantastic. All right, we're going to move on to the last segment. Does anybody have a last segment? Or
I was hoping that you did, because
no,
nothing, Jeff.
Nothing. I mean, I could punt to something strange. I wanted to briefly go into F1 for a moment and wish there was some serious medical issues that happened this weekend. If you weren't paying attention, Alex Albon ended up on a ventilator. In case you haven't seen, after a pancreatitis attack.
It's appendicitis, actually.
Appendicitis, I'm sorry.
Not the same. Like, nope.
Sorry. I didn't write notes for this. I'm doing it off my head.
Fine. Appendicitis. Laparoscopic, which is much better than the old school way. So his recovery should have been better than what he has to do now.
Absolutely. But I just wanted to say that, you know, obviously I've had some recent deaths in my family, that we all need to really take care of our medical thing and make sure that we are all being as healthy as we can. So my just the tip for the day is going to be, take a moment, check yourself out, make that appointment that you've been putting off for a very long time. Get checked out, go see your doctor. You probably have an annual physical on your HMO that you haven't used, or a new eye exam, or whatever that it has to be. And my just the tip for this week is try and take care of yourself, because without the corpus, you can't be driving that race car. So that's what I want to say. Anybody want to round the horn that? Any tips?
There's a
Tetanus
gentleman.
shot.
Tetanus
shot.
shot.
How about flu too, while you're at it?
Yeah. There's a gentleman in my office who is losing part of his leg because he had no feeling in his leg, and he was neglecting some other health issues, and finally got to the point where he couldn't walk. And had he been in earlier, he would be in good health. And it's taken him out for a while. So we had a meeting, because we're all old, stubborn aviation A types. And, basically our boss said, quit being stupid, go to the doctor.
Somber.
I think he looked at the guy who was limping around a lot, but but,
We don't usually end on this kind of a downer.
It's kind of a downer.
Oh.
Yeah, that's all right. Brian, any health tips out there?
Or tips for that matter. You can just give us.
I mean,
safety.
one thing that's true that I've heard is that like SCCA race medical license has been the thing that has in many cases saved someone's life, because they've gone to the doctor when they might not have otherwise, and they identified some sort of issue that they were able to take care of. So, I mean, nobody likes going to the doctor, but it's a whole lot better than the alternative of what happens if you don't catch something.
And your body is on such different stress when you're racing. I mean, it has nothing to do with Albon and his appendicitis, because that just happens because I don't have one, and I got it out when I was 10. So it had nothing for me to do with if you're healthy or not. But it's just good advice, because your body's under a lot of stress. Sometimes it's a little different than normal stress, working out and that kind of thing.
We talk all the time about how the stresses of the car are going to find that weak part no matter what you do.
Mm-hmm.
It's also going to find that stressor on your body.
Yep. I like it. Well, thanks for being here, Brian. Really exciting to hear
great.
all the things that you're into, and now people will know when they sign up for they register for some kind of event, then they'll think of you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Even if you're not registering a C Sprite, a Citroen.
Something colored various.
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 Or now you're going to get a whole lot of various just because.
Yeah, everybody's going to be putting in various.
As long as there's a photo that backs up the various, I'm here for it. So.
Okay.
So
Thanks so much for having me.
if you're trolling him, don't be lazy. Your car better be various.
Right. And if it's not, then they're going to say, well, they get the paint. Okay, just make it various. You better come up with something good. I like it.
Thanks so much for having me. Love you guys.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right. So do we have any idea what we're doing next week?
No.
No, we have some ideas, but we'll come up with something.
Yep.
Well, I want to say thank you, Brian, and thank you all of us for downloading us. We hope you enjoyed this week's edition of Everyone Racers. We also hope you'll join us in the world of driving, racing, and building, because everyone can be a racer, even you. If you enjoyed this podcast, subscribe. It's totally free. If you hated us, tell us why. If you loved us, tell us why. If you're watching on YouTube, right down there in the doodly-doo, just smash the like button, all that other stuff. Yeah, check us out. If you have any questions or show ideas, or you want to show us your various car, drop a comment on our Facebook page, Everyone Racers. Email us at everyone.racers@gmail.com. You can still text mental 484-243-0455 with all of your various colored race cars. Find us on Instagram or Twitter, everyone.racers, YouTube, Facebook. It's everywhere. Even Reddit /E1R. I haven't been to Reddit in months. Mental, have you been there?
Absolutely. I'm daily.
Yeah. I meant on our page on Reddit. Thanks again. And until next week, keep the various side up. Unless it's all just the same color, then just keep those wheels down.
All right. I stopped it before the music started again. I don't know if that matters.